So on a daily basis, I have 4 to 5 kids under 4 all day while my kids are at school. And then I get to go to the school and trade them and bring my kids back. And we've got sports and we've got a million schedules. I'm on the Board of Education. I'm on the worship team at church. I serve at the church. I have a lot on my plate on a daily basis, let alone trying to be a good mom and a good wife and keep the home and keep, food on the table and make sure everybody's cared for. However, I'm able to have peace through all of that in the middle of chaos because I know that God has given me everything that I need for that life of godliness that He's called me to.
Okay, John Luke, here we are again. It's coffee time with the pastors, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's good to be here today. And what in the world are we here for? Did we even talk about it? What are we going to do today?
I was looking forward to sitting and enjoying a nice cup of coffee with some medicine-flavored coffee creamer.
Oh,
I mean,
you got some of that coffee flavor? It's not coffee-flavored creamer, is it? It's
no.
weird. Yeah,
okay. It is weird creamer, I got to say.
I'll tell you what, why don't we'll get some of our best people on this right away and see what we can come up with, okay?
Yes.
All right. Hey, do you have any idea what this thing is that we're talking about here, the series that we've been doing?
Does it have something to do with this big speckled background that we have right here?
Is there anything on the speckled background?
Besides
specks.
An outline of a horse.
There is a horse in there. Isn't it funny, John Luke, that there can be things in life, in our lives, that have been hidden in plain view, that it's always been there right in front of us, but now we get to see it maybe as if, again, for the first time. And how many times has it been with you with a scripture, and the Lord just popped something out, and you've read it 1,000 times, but it became real to you in that moment.
Yeah, that actually happened to me yesterday. It was reading Psalm 19, which I'm a little bit behind in the Bible reading, the study guide for reading through the Bible that's provided in the foyer, or the lobby rather. But it was basically David saying, "Please, Lord, cleanse me from my hidden faults, and also don't let my intentional sins rule over me." And I was like, I had no idea that Psalms had this, and I've read through Psalms multiple times the past few years. It's like just a little gem just hidden in there that I never noticed before.
How about that? In Psalm 19, before we go into this, that's the one where it says, the law of the Lord is perfect. It converts the soul. He goes on to say, more desired than gold is his law, even than refined gold, and sweeter than the honeycomb. I mean, you don't hear that anywhere else in the Bible about Bible people talking about God's word being that important. But it kind of brings up something for us to see, because that even right there, it was hidden in plain view, wasn't it? Right in front of you, but you didn't see it.
In plain sight.
Yeah,
yep.
In plain sight. And so what we're going to be talking about is, we've been talking about 3 disciples. We talked about John. We talked about Matthew, the musings of a tax collector, and that made a lot of people nervous on Sunday. I told them if they handed their bulletin in with their tax return, they would get no benefit at all. But go ahead and try. It didn't work. But in this week, we're going to be talking maybe about the most infamous disciple of them all, and that's Peter. Here's a guy, John Luke, that, we'll just hit some highlights. He was on the Mount of Transfiguration with Jesus and Moses and Elijah. The real guys. And they had died, evidently, many, many hundreds of years before, but here they are right there with him in real life. That's pretty cool. What's some of the other things we know about Peter?
Well, he walked on water. He was the first one to jump out. And then he also jumped out to see Jesus after Jesus's resurrection, when Jesus was cooking them breakfast, which I would definitely jump out of the boat to get a little taste of a meal that Jesus has prepared. Like, that'd be awesome. And then he also denied Jesus 3 times.
Yeah. Well, I noticed that back in the Mount of Transfiguration, one of the things we see about him and the other guys, they say, hey, can we build a monument to these 3 people that are there? You, Jesus, and the one, Moses, that represents the law, and the one that represents the prophets. Can we build a monument? Here's these guys wanting to build a monument when Jesus is trying to build a moment. God is building a moment there with his son. He said, this is my son in whom I'm well pleased. But at the end of the book of John, you know what happens is John winds up, or John writes about Peter winding up. They're fishing again. They've gone back to fishing. I mean, what are you going to do? We don't have a Messiah anymore. That whole gig has kind of fallen apart. And I wonder if that's kind of the way they were looking at it. But here's what happens. They find themselves on the shoreline. And maybe after all the hopes and the dreams that Peter had, he really found out, and after denying Jesus 3 times, not once, but 3 times, Judas did it once. You know, he stood up or really denied the whole power of God in one fell swoop. Peter did it 3 times. But it's what you do with those moments. And I wonder if on the shoreline while he's fishing, he's thinking about that. And I think maybe what came through his mind is that Peter was probably thinking, you know what, I really am good for nothing. I'm just good for nothing. So that, you know, Jesus measures the moment with him, and he steps into the moment, as we've been talking about. If you follow, and eventually you're going to believe, because you're going to find out that my words line up with my actions, and it's going to be a different kind of a faith walk for you. And so let's advance about, in fact, I can't tell you right off the bat how many years, but it's 30, 40 years, and you see Peter as an older man. And he's writing the book of 2 Peter, 1 Peter, 2 Peter, and he's really wanting to leave the disciples imprint of Jesus and the imprint that he had on their lives onto the lives of the people that will read this. And so here's congregations across the world, the then known world, and they're hearing him say things like, make every effort to add. And then he goes to a litany of things, add this to this, to this, to this. And at the end of it, you know what he's going to say? He's going to say that in fact, the prelude for this is that we have been given exceeding great and precious promises, that by these we might inherit everything the kingdom has for us. And that's what we're going to get out of this next week. We're going to see something out of Peter that we've never seen before. All up to this time, he bravely jumped in the water twice, like you said. The second time he didn't walk on water, and I never thought about that before. I wonder if he was thinking he could.
That would be interesting. Just jumps head first into the water.
Yeah. But we're going to find something about goodness, because remember I just said a while ago, he finds that he's good for nothing. But Jesus is going to come along and show him, you know, it's okay that you're good for nothing in and of yourself. So good for nothing's good to know, right?
And I really like the contrast that you drew between Judas and Peter, how they both denied Jesus. Peter even denied him more than Judas, but it's what they did afterwards, and how Peter repented, and he ran towards Jesus when given the opportunity. When Judas, he gave up, and he
was hanging around.
Yeah, he was hanging around.
Yeah, and really the demise of him was what he did with it. Mm-hmm. So it really does get down to, you might be good for nothing in so many ways and might feel that way, but it's what you do with the moment and where you take it. And so, you know what? What I think Peter's going to teach us about in this series that we're going to go into is that it's okay if you come to the end of yourself. Good for nothing is really good to know, because in getting to the bottom of yourself, that's where God advances himself in you, through you, and with you. And what a great thing that can be, John. So I'm looking forward to this series. How about you?
I'm really excited, actually. And this is going to be a long one, isn't it?
It's going to be about 12 years.
12 years.
No, I'm kidding. It's going to be
one for each disciple.
It's just going to be. It'll be through a couple of months and less than a couple of months, and it's just going to be a grand old time. But really, John Luke, if you want to know the truth, what he is hitting on here is Christian maturity. And if you look at the last 7 books of the Bible, not counting Revelation, before they said 1st, 2nd Peter, and 1st, 2nd, 3rd John, and Jude. Okay, so you've got these books, James, the book of James. Those guys, disciples, the inner core of who Jesus was, the 3 biggies, the inner core, James, Peter, and John. And they're heading on Christian maturity and the importance of that in your life. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to this because I think we're all going to grow through this. Mm-hmm. So that's all we got for today, though.
Well, great. Thanks for tuning in with us. And we look forward to seeing you in another video or on Sunday. Hope to see you Sunday.